They're the ones that are really interacting with our customers on a day-to-day basis. So number one, I always want to make sure that we have effective communication. Number two, I want to bring my salespeople in to those campaign meetings. I want to bring in the managers. I want to bring in some frontline people so they can have an input as to what we're designing and what we're creating.
Today's guest is Brian Long, a seasoned digital marketing leader whose work has driven growth across industries by aligning strategy with what actually moves the needle. I asked Brian on the show because his take on leadership isn't just about metrics and campaigns. It's about trust, clarity, and adaptability. In this episode, we talk about navigating shifting expectations, leading teams through uncertainty, and how listening well can be your greatest competitive edge. In today's episode, it comes down to this. Growth starts when leadership gets clear on values, on vision, and on people. Welcome to The Marketer. It's great to have you guys back on the show. We have a really exciting episode for you today. It's going to be a good topic. We're going to be diving deep into the untapped potential of your sales team and how you can get your sales team really to become marketers. I have an excellent guest with me today. Brian, thank you for joining me. Great to see you again.
Yeah, great to see you too, Monty. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely my pleasure. So I just want to get us jumped right into this, Brian. So let's say you've got two kingdoms. One over here on the left, one over here on the right. In between them is a giant, vast divide. The kingdom on the left is marketing. The kingdom on the right is sales. And that's typically how it is in most companies. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree.
It's definitely what I've found. How do you build a bridge between the two?
Well, it's a great question, and it's a great place to start from, because when you're talking about sales and marketing, I think that is the stereotype you get, is that there's a no man's land between the two where nobody can tread, and it's convoluted, it's messy. But I think what most people don't realize is that they are completely intertwined together. When you have a successful marketing team, you can have a successful sales team, and vice versa. So I think they're intertwined a lot more than people realize. So in kind of bridging that gap and building a bridge there, I think for me, the best way to do that is kind of a simple one. And I know I'll probably have some people rolling their eyes out there in the audience when I say it, but it's effective communication. And to some people that can sound pretty trivial, right? It's, okay, so I just need to talk to them about things? Sure. What I mean by effective communication is aligning values between sales and marketing to make sure that you're all together going towards the same goal. Because at the end of the day, if we really want to boil this down into something, we're all here to make money, right? I think any salesman you talk to is going to tell you, I'm here to make money. That's what I do. And so to the same degree, that's what the marketing team's there for, right? It's to make sure that the sales team has the resources that they need to go out there and do their job. So that in building a bridge, and to answer your question, that's where I approach it first, is making sure that there's effective communication and making sure that marketing initiatives are in line with sales initiatives and vice versa.
Brian, in your experience with the company that you're at right now, you've got both marketing and, in fact, you're the head of marketing, and you've got a lot of salespeople spread out across the country. So how did you take the steps to bring your teams together so that they can benefit one another? And why did you feel like it was necessary to do so?
Taking steps to ensure that there are open communication channels between both teams. There's probably something you're going to hear me harp on throughout the rest of our discussion is this communication point. But you have to establish that first. And so I'll go back to a previous experience I had where my first job out of college, I was selling cameras. I was in sales. I was doing my thing. I was doing some good work. But our marketing team just kept pushing things to us that just didn't, it didn't really align with what I'm hearing on the front line. It's just, it doesn't make sense. And the messaging is just not correct. So what I did from my position and, as a lowly sales coordinator, I reached out to the director of marketing and I had a conversation with him. And that was really beneficial for me in forming my future strategy of what I was going to do, because that marketing director was so open to talk to me where I didn't think that that was going to be something that they were even interested in because I was just a lowly salesperson. But I took that into later roles where my first step as soon as I start a job is to make sure that everybody knows that nothing is off the table to talk. If I, as a marketing director, am pushing an initiative or pushing a campaign and I have a sales coordinator that says this is just so out of touch with what I'm hearing on the front line from the people I'm trying to sell to, that's very valuable insight to me. I mean, even any salesperson that's out there, because they're the ones that are really interacting with our customers on a day-to-day basis. So number one, I always want to make sure that we have effective communication. Number two, I want to bring my salespeople in to those campaign meetings. I want to bring in the managers. I want to bring in some frontline people so they can have an input as to what we're designing and what we're creating. When you do that, that helps the salespeople to buy into what you're doing because they feel their voice is heard. And if their voice is heard, they're going to put more emphasis on putting that in the field, and they're going to be more excited to talk about it in the field. So instead of hey, this guy up at corporate, handed me down, this marketing guy at corporate handed me down this thing I got to say. Instead of that, it's, hey, they involved me in this. I was able to share my ideas and my opinion, and we crafted this collectively to put this out in the field, and it works and it's good.
That's excellent advice. I work with a lot of companies, and typically there is one of the reasons why there's such a divide between the two is they both think that they serve different roles. They both think that they have different responsibilities, right? And in a sense, from just a pure process standpoint, they do. But what you said was excellent. You got to get your teams on the same page with the same goal, right? It's not necessarily just about revenue production. That's ultimately the foundation. You've got to, you're setting your revenue goals and stuff like that. It's how do you go about communicating with your target market? How do you go about creating the interest in the conversations that matter for your teams? And I think that is kind of what you were just talking about. How do you know, providing a space to where they can both share both the good and the bad, and they can be open and honest with each other. Hey, that's not going to work. I think you need to do something different. Or, yes, this is working really well, and this is what I'm hearing from the customer. From the marketing side of the table, I think so often marketing people don't take the time to really sit down with all of the salespeople, not just the sales leader, but all of the salespeople within the company and say, what are you hearing on the phones? What are you hearing in your meetings? What are they responding well to? What are they not responding well to? Where's the barriers that we need to break down? What are the different pieces and components that we can put together to help you overcome those? Maybe it would be within your slide deck or some kind of video presentation that you can send them or something like that. So when you have created that environment for your team, as you have done, what have you seen the effects of that to be?
They're incredible. I mean, the sales guys are more excited to take the product into the field and to sell it. And they, like I said before, they feel like their voice has been heard. And I feel like, I mean, even circling back to our first question here, and we're talking about that chasm between sales and marketing. If you are just able to give them their voice or give them a voice in the meeting, that goes such a long way to showing that you care what they're talking about, what they're experiencing, and that you want to put that into these campaigns. I think as a marketer, and just talking specifically to social media, I think we have our data that says, there's this particular demographic on Facebook, so we have to cater our content to target that. Where our salespeople will come in and say, well, maybe that's not our target demographic. Maybe our target demographic is a little bit different. And, I'm hearing a lot of resonance with this in the field with this particular demographic. Maybe we can go in that direction. And I think at times with some disjointed teams, that just falls on deaf ears, right? It's, hey, I'm hearing this resonates with this demographic. Well, in my experience, that's not what the data tells me. So I need to go in this direction. And that's a whole controversial topic. I'm sure we could explore even more is leaning away from the data at times and going with what's working in the field versus what the data is telling you.
I think that's a great thing to discuss because Mark, to your point, and sorry to cut you off on that, but to your point, data is the big thing in marketing right now, right? Everybody wants data-driven decisions, and they want the data to drive the direction and the strategy. But you've got your team in the field, and they're really granular. They're the ones that are, marketing can say, yes, this is our target market. This is what's defined us based on the data. But then you've got your salespeople that are in the weeds, and they're the ones that are actually talking to it. And how do you match those? So, how does that work for you guys?
So here at Safe Haven, our salespeople are awesome. They're accountable, they're tenacious, they're innovative, and there's a lot of things that they do that I really don't think translate through to data points. We're selling really awesome smart home solutions, really great home security solutions, and this industry is meant to help protect families and their homes, right? So when they're going to these homes and talking to these families about home security solutions, they might say things that are, hey, I see you have kids, school's almost out. They're coming home. You might still be at work. This system will help you be able to monitor, unlock doors for them, be able to make sure that they're safe even when you're not there. To me, that's really hard to translate through data, right? Because I think that data might show you something a little bit different. But when you bring in your sales teams and you ask them and they give you that feedback, then your marketing plan can shift a little bit. Then you can say, okay, that's resonating with them. Maybe we should put out some commercials. Maybe we should put out some ads that just say, hey, back to school's coming or school's out. In households that have two working parents, that can be very beneficial for them. And that's, like I said, not to repeat myself, but that's something that you don't really get through data. And so getting those insights from your sales team is invaluable. And for teams that don't have that cross-functional capability, it's very, very difficult to get a aligned messaging from both sales and marketing.
I would also add to that, Brian, that there is a lot of data that you just can't acquire outside of the conversations that your sales team's having, right?
Yes.
It's just not available. I mean, you can't get inside the mind of somebody all the time, but your salespeople are doing that. They're hearing the why. They're hearing how does, feeling not secure in your own home affect your life and your family? What kind of anxiety does that take? And so that's data that you can't get.
Yep.
Right. But you can really get that from, conversations that you're having. So your frontline people almost become one of the most important data drivers, if you would, of your marketing communication, from what it sounds like, correct?
Yeah. And I mean, the insights that they have, if you're not going out there and asking them what they're experiencing, you're never going to get that from the data. I mean, I can sit here and tell you from a marketing perspective, and this is just purely hypothetical numbers here, but I show a video to somebody, they're maybe 70% more likely to convert on a particular campaign. That might not be the same. So like maybe in the field, what they're actually seeing is that when they show them an infographic, that's converting better than actually showing them a video. So we can gather data, and I do want to say I'm very data driven myself. I use data all across my job every day. So I'm not trying to say take your data and throw it out the window. But yeah, these conversations that our salespeople are having, that is not something that you can represent through analytics. You just can't. And so having open dialogue with them, again, broken record here, but having that effective communication and those communication strategies to reach out and talk to your salespeople is incredibly important.
Now let's talk about the logistics of that. Okay. So how does that come together for your company? Because how many sales reps do you have across the country?
It's hard to say. We have several hundred.
Okay. So that's a big team. You got a couple hundred. And how big is your marketing team?
We have 3 people.
3 people. Okay. Three to several hundred.
Experts here, yes.
Right. So what have you done to create that bridge over that chasm that allows your marketing team to get that data that's locked inside your sales team's heads? Is it, have you said, all right, we're going to have a monthly meeting where the entire team gets together with the marketing? Is it we have a communication channel on Slack or something where we can ask questions? How does that come together for you?
So it's something we're very much in the process of doing right now. So I've been with the company almost 5 months now. So these are avenues that we're just starting to open. And the way I'm going about doing it is making sure that our marketing team is very visible, making sure that everybody knows who the marketing team is, because we didn't really have a dedicated marketing team prior to me being here. We had a lot of people doing a lot of different things that were marketing, but it wasn't centralized in one location. So that's something that myself and my other two team members, we've been working very, very hard to establish. But the key is to not be opaque. It's not to be marketing some entity that nobody really knows, but you know that when you put a piece of content out there that doesn't really align with our values, they come and smack you down. It's being open and honest, and it's letting everybody know that we're on the same team, we're working towards the same goal, and we're not just a faceless department. We're Some of the other ways I'm trying to do that is, if anybody messages me and say, hey, can I get this video to share on social media? I'm right there responding to them. Let them know that we're not out of touch. We're always here to help. I mean, day or night. I mean, with people out in the field, we want to make sure that we're matching their effort level. They're working very hard out there. They're working day and night, just like I said, and we want to make sure that we're right there with them. They're looking for resources. They're looking for things to take out into the field. We want to be there to be able to match their energy. So it's kind of a roundabout way to answer that question.
Well, I think what you said is good. I mean, your team's got to be visible. Number
Yes.
one, they've got to be present, and number two, the lines of communication have to be established there that your sales team knows that they can approach that marketing group or that individual
Yes.
and talk with them about what they're seeing in the field. So it's it's a great discussion to find out, okay, from what does the marketing team need from the sales team. Let's talk a little bit about what I'm sorry. Let's talk a little bit about what sales needs from marketing so that not only that they can do their job better, but so that they can almost represent the brand from a marketing standpoint themselves. Because you said, yeah, everybody's a marketer out there. What do you do for your team to equip them to basically spread the message of the brand and to do more marketing outside of what your specific department does?
The best way I can say it is with one word, is just to reinforce. They're the ones out there. Um, they're reaching out to these families. They're sitting in living rooms and talking to these families. So I don't think there's anything I can give them that is going to immediately be able to help them convert these families. And I know that kind of sounds odd, but what I mean by that is I want to provide them things that can reinforce what they're talking about in the homes. So I want to make sure that they have, if these customers are looking us up online, I want to make sure that they see a very powerful company image, great website, great social media assets, all those touch points. So that just reinforces who we are and what we're saying. I mean, we've been around for 25 years. That's a big thing to say in today's market. I mean, a lot of these companies don't stay around for very long, but we've stayed around that long because we stay close to a set of values. And we exhibit that through our sales teams, all the way through our payroll department, and everywhere in between. So I want to make sure that when they're in the field and they're showing infographics, when they're showing, printed out documents, I want to make sure that all of those are reinforcing what they're telling those families, which is what I've gone into just a minute ago, was we are here to help you protect your home. And in order for me to do that, here are the resources to reinforce that.
Do you expect your sales team to carry that throughout? Like, do you ask them to post to social media? You had mentioned that one of your team members was going to post a video. Um, do you require that? Do you recommend that? How does that work in terms of taking a large sales team and having them distribute some messaging on their own personal accounts, maybe that would benefit the brand?
Well, it can be difficult. I mean, not everybody's born to be in front of the camera. Not everybody's like you, Melanie. But I try to motivate them to do it. Yes. I think it's a very rare thing when you have someone who's willing and able to regularly post on social media to help their business. And instead of wanting to police that and shut down content, I want to encourage it. I want to encourage people to get out there, create their content, make their own brand for themselves. Of course, while staying within our company guidelines, but we try to keep it broad enough where they can do that. Because I think in today's day and age, digital marketing is such a crucial part of any business. I mean, from a broad corporate perspective, all the way down to the individual salesperson. We want to make sure that they're out there putting things in the field that is going to help their personal brand. And so if I have a salesperson that wants to share some info about home security statistics, if they reach out to me, I'm going to share some salient statistics with them, some things that will resonate, and they can go put that out in the field themselves. But I think in a broader sense, it's going to help their business. So I want to always encourage them to go post on social media. And, if I have to just keep them comfortable, maybe don't get in front of the camera right away. Maybe, hey, let's just write an article or write a blog, share it on your LinkedIn. Kind of a way to get your words out there without having to put your face out there on video if you're not comfortable with it. Once they see the returns on that article, maybe they get 4 or 5 people reaching out to them with questions or wanting to install home security. Then that snowball starts rolling. They see how much it can help their business, and they slowly will get to the point where they can post regular video content.
Well, I'll tell you what, Brian, I mean, for those of you who are listening to this show and you're either a leader or a marketing leader at a company and a brand, and you're trying to figure this out, what Brian just shared with you is absolute gold. If you take nothing from this show, take this, okay? And that look at each of your sales members, each individual, as like their own personal brand. That is so crucial. And understand that they, in a sense, have their own business, right? They're on the street. They are out there daily trying to bring in new business for the company, but it's their own effort and what they're doing to create their livelihood. So it's almost, they're like little tiny entrepreneurs, if you would. And that's how you need to look at them. And how can you equip them as a marketer to go build the best personal brand that they can possibly create while it supports the overall corporate brand that they're working for? Because it's a rising tide floats all boats, right? If you've got 100 salespeople out there and they're all posting content, as long as you build a sandbox that they can play within, and I'll give them the freedom and the autonomy, if you would, to be able to go play within that sandbox, your brand distribution and awareness goes through the roof. So can you share a story, Brian, about what the effects of that has been? Maybe somebody who is doing a really good job of building their own personal brand within the company. Does anything come to mind?
I think we have several employees that have taken it upon themselves to do that, and I think they're going in very unique directions. One other thing, and I know this is kind of the hot button topic that everybody's talking about right now, is I do encourage AI resources as well. AI image generation, chat GPT, all that stuff, because that's also a very quick way for them to be able to put content in the field that's impactful. Of course, they need to edit it, make sure that it's sounding good and all that stuff. I know ChatGPT, sometimes you can have some hiccups with that, but that's, and like I said, the couple of employees that I have out there that are doing really, really well are utilizing some of these AI resources. And it's always a bumpy start at first, but there's a mantra that I follow, and I've followed my entire career, is move yourself forward one step at a time every day. So it's do something every day to benefit yourself, to move your career forward. Whether that's, you open an article, you don't have to read the whole article, maybe just read one paragraph. Some days you're going to have a lot of motivation to, go 6-7 hours of ingesting content and learning. And the other days you're just, 10 minutes is a lot. So if they're out there and, they want to put content out there, they don't know where to start, because like you were saying, for them to go out there and build their own personal brand, it sounds like you're climbing Mount Everest. But if you can if you can kind of reduce that to bite-sized steps where every day you can do something to help climb that mountain, you're going to look back after 6 months, after 12 months, and you're going to say, I can't believe that I did that. All you need to do is take that first step. All you need to do is start. Because once you can build up a habit, the sky's the limit. So that's what I'm communicating to some of our salespeople out in the field is, we all have to play by the same rules. We all have to play within brand guidelines, but I want you out there posting. I want you to help to keep building that brand, to keep helping your own business. Because I think you said it really well just then is they're out there building their livelihoods. And so if they're out there posting, it's music to my ears. But let's just, we can all stay in the same avenue and like I said, play by the same rules. But if they're posting, keep doing it.
Yeah, encourage it for sure. A couple of stories. Number one, I used to work with a lot of financial advisors and within the finance industry, and they are so restricted because of, governmental restrictions, on trading and all that other kind of stuff. They're so locked down, they can pretty much do nothing. In terms of talking about anything finance related. Now, with those types of companies, if I was a marketer there, I would say go on the personal level. Talk about your own, personal things. Talk about leadership principles. Talk about culture, those types of things so that people can help to get to know you. I had another company that I was working with, and we had their entire sales team in the conference room. And we were talking about this. They hadn't gotten into this yet. It was very much, marketing kingdom, sales kingdom. We don't talk. And so the whole goal was to get them to see that, okay, marketing, you really need this value added information from the conversations that your sales team is having. And sales team, you really need the sandbox that marketing can build for you. And you really do need to build that thought leadership so that you can establish trust, expertise, and authority as people go out and start, creating relationships with you and so on and so forth, right? So I had one salesperson who said in the meeting, said, I don't want to do any of that because my personal account is my personal accounts. And I don't think I should have to post anything business related to my personal accounts. I did it for a few weeks and all I got was my friend saying, why in the world are you posting all this stuff about logistics, which is the industry they were in, and they were getting sick and tired of seeing what, all this stuff about logistics I was posting. And my response to him was, are your friends potential clients? Or are they just your friends? And it doesn't mean that everything that you do out there has to be work related, but are you proud of what you do? And if you are proud of what you do, are you not proud to talk about it through your social channels? And I think for a sales team, they really need to understand for themselves, this is my own personal business. This is what I do for a living. I like it. And I want to tell people about it. And what that means is I'm going to share my thoughts. I'm going to share my perspectives about whatever it is from a business standpoint that is both beneficial for me personally, but for the brand that I work with. What's your thoughts about that?
It's hard to build a personal brand. It's difficult. And I think we get a lot of reinforcement. I mean, I'm on social media all the time. Of course, social media is a big part of my job, but I see it reinforced across Reddit, YouTube. Everybody wants to build their personal brand. Everybody's posting videos. So it can at times really seem like you're just shouting into the void. And I think there's a lot of factors that reinforce this, but I think one of the more powerful ones goes back to something we kind of touched on, which is touch points. So, and in the financial world, this may be the case, but in our world, what happens when someone looks you up? What happens when a client looks you up online? It can be something that sales teams, a lot of times are like, oh, they're not doing that. I'm in the home with them. I'm talking to them, and they're not doing that. And I can promise you, probably over 90+% of the time, they are looking up you and the company. And so and I think you said it right there, and that's something that's resonating with me right now. And I'm just turning around in my head is when you're able to show that you're passionate about what you do, that goes an infinitely long way to a potential customer to want to use your service or use your product. If you're passionate about it and you're posting about it, and like you said, it doesn't have to be every day turning on your camera and just talking about, data or, new logistics and things like that. It can, if you try a new restaurant, you can post it on there. I mean, it's your personal brand. You can do what you want, but the main thing is that you have to remain consistent. You will never talk to somebody who started a Facebook page, started a YouTube page, started an Instagram page, and in 2 weeks they had 100,000 followers. 100% of the time, everybody you talk to, oh yeah, I had to post for 2 years. I had to really get in line with what I was doing. I had to write my videos out. I had to plan ahead, and I had to post for 2 years before I really started getting traction. It's a long game for social media. If you can remain consistent, that's the name of the game.
It does need to be consistent, but from a leadership standpoint, I also think that companies should look at incentivizing their teams to do this, not only for themselves, but it's effective for the brand. Now, there's a number of ways that you can do that. It doesn't always have to be monetarily. A lot of times it can just be by recognition. But I can imagine if I had 100 salespeople out there and I wanted to incentivize them to post, doesn't matter how often, right? Just post to social media. I would want to equip them to understand why it's good for them to do it, right? For them personally. But then as they do it consistently, for instance, if they post, I would want them to tag the company. And it could be done in the comments. It doesn't even have to be done in the post itself, right? It could be more of a personalized post about something that doesn't have anything to do with it, but then tag, the company in the comments with, if you're looking for this or if you need that, type of a deal, right? That one little thing is you're posting about what you want and about what your thought leadership should be, so on and so forth. But a comment is just as good because if people see a post, they're always going to typically see comments as well. And if that first one is pinned there about your company, you're doing just as well. So when as all these algorithms work, when you mention somebody, right? Now the marketing team can come back in and they can put their own comments on that. It will improve your reach to the post, and it will give more feedback to, or more brand awareness, if you would, to the company. So as people do that, you could build up an incentive program for your team to say, hey, you do this 10 times a month, we'll give you some kind of recognition, or we'll do whatever for you, right? Then the other thing is, like I was saying a little earlier, if you've got 100 people that are doing that, imagine the brand reach that you could have if all of your team only posted once a month. That'd be 100 posts a month that the marketing team could never do, right? So your reach would be amazing. Do you have any other ideas like that you could share as you think through it that come to mind?
Yeah, something kind of, I think, loosely related to it is giving those salespeople, giving those team members assets that they can use out in the field. That's an initiative that we're pushing for right now is, we want to help you to be able to put content out there that's going to be impactful for your audience. Here's some examples. They can take these videos, they can take these images, and they can use them. They can comment on them. They can put their own spin on it. But I think doing that and exactly what you just said, borrow on the reputation, on the reach that the existing company page already has. We're working very hard to make sure that page is representative of the company. And, we have all the employees that follow us, we have the recognition of being that main company page. Lean on us, share our posts, add your own spin on them. That's what they're there for. If nothing else, we want that to be a resource that they can use to kind of get that ball rolling, to get that snowball started, like we were talking about earlier. But yeah, putting it in the comments and leveraging the main company page is a huge part of that strategy, and should be something that they utilize. I mean, at the beginning, they could utilize it exclusively, but as they get more comfortable in creating their own content, they can start branching out and just use it as a fallback.
I think that's excellent advice. And I want to go back to what you were saying a little bit earlier about AI. AI is so invaluable right now and can save companies so much time if you're just creative about how you're using it, right? So if, for instance, if you create those resources on your company page and it's very um, heavy data driven, or it's just very much learning, if you would, you can have the marketing team now go and create a prompt with AI that you can send out to your sales team and say, prompt AI with this post, see what it says. It's going to give you the start of your own post to post on your behalf, right? It'll give you the writing, because a lot of salespeople are not writers, and don't have any interest in being a writer, a creative writer, I should say. But if you can have AI prompt and do it for you, now you've defined for your sales team kind of what the post will be about, and you just ask them to modify it into their own voice, right? So you're just kind of rewriting into your own voice what's already been done for you, and that way you can scale. You can create content, because what a lot of people have learned from sales team is, hey, I don't have time to do this, right? I am busy making phone calls, sending emails, tracking down leads, watching my funnel, who is in position, following back up. My day's full. I don't have time to sit down and just post every day, right? But if you can use a combination of AI and you can create a strategy that they can buy into, and you can show them that, hey, give me 15 minutes of your day, just it. That's it, right? And I'll make it easy for you so that within that 15 minutes, you're going to build your own personal brand. You're going to have a much easier time starting conversations with people. And when people do go out and look at you, to your point, and they do, by the way, they're actually going to see personality. Because so much of sales, if it's B2B, is about likability, isn't it? So, well, Brian, great show. I think there's a lot of good information that you brought here. Let me ask you one final question, okay? Have you ever seen a downside to this?
Inevitably, there is, and it's, again, broken record here, but it is where communication steps in. But some of the downsides that you see is it's really wanting to keep those brand guidelines central. I think when we're building personal brands and we're representing the company out in the field, we do need to make sure that our values are reinforced, because when you depart from the guidelines that have been set out, it can start hurting your growth. Because when you're leaning on our reputation, we want to make sure that that's in line with where we're going, and we're aiding to that reputation and not being a detriment to it. So naturally, with freedom, there can be downsides, but it's where these resources come in. It's making sure that the guidelines and the strategies are the center of what you're doing. And again, going back to what we were talking about before, it's making sure that the salespeople are involved from the beginning all the way to the distribution. And if they have their voice in there and you can cater it to them, there's going to be less of a motivation of theirs to branch out from the messaging and the alignment that we have. So like I said, there are inevitably downsides, but there's nothing that's going to be unfixable through this. There's going to be pain points, there's going to be things, but when you get on the other side of those and you see the benefits from them, it's going to make all of it worth it.
That is such an excellent point. The risk is absolutely worth the reward. Hopefully you've seen that in our discussion today. really thank you, everybody, for listening in. Hope you have taken some really good nuggets away from the show. And fill that void. Don't let your sales team and your marketing team sit on each sides of the table and just stare at each other. Get them talking, get them together and collaborating, and you'll be amazed what it will do for your business. Brian, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Monty. My pleasure.